There is a lot of misinformation on the internet right now regarding the Hashira Training arc, and I'm here to help you out. What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. And today we're going to be discussing the Demon Slayer new season that is currently airing, the Hashira Training arc, and whether or not you should be watching it. And the short answer is yes, you're welcome. You should be watching this arc. There is no such thing as filler in Demon Slayer, no matter what people try and tell you. It does not exist. The Hashira Training arc is important. You should be watching it. But if you want to know why you should be watching it, then this video is for you. Guys, before we dive into this video, don't forget to like this video and leave a comment on what your favorite episode of Hashira Training is so far. You can also subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every Monday and Thursday, with Mondays being reserved for the episode review and manga comparison of what they adapted. So if you're interested in that, check it out. You can also click on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. And finally, you can follow me on all social media. I am @LookingNerdy on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Okay, but now that we got that out of the way, let's discuss the Hashira Training arc and why it is so important. Also, a quick side note, anime onlys, it is okay to have opinions. Like, you are allowed to have opinions. However, you don't know the final arcs of the story, you haven't read it, so if you have not read the manga, you probably don't really know if this season is important or not, so you really shouldn't be telling people to watch the season or not. I am a manga reader. I have been reading the manga for a long time, and by that I mean I have read it multiple times. Like 5 times, I think. And I'm also a big fan of the show, and while that might mean that I'm of course biased because I like it, I also am biased towards the nuances of the story. I pay a lot of attention to detail within the story because I like it. Therefore, I feel like I have good reason to get on here and say whether or not the Hashira Training arc is important, because I actually know what is to come and I know all of the minute details. So yeah, that's what I have going for me. So that's why you can trust me. Okay, but I'm gonna try and break this down into points to make it easier and more organized for you and for me. And our first point is, it is a training arc, not a filler arc. The word filler has been getting thrown around on the internet a lot regarding the Hashira Training arc, and it's not a filler arc. Now, yes, Ufotable is adding a lot of anime original content, and a lot of times when anime adds a lot of original content, people automatically assume that just means that it's not important, it's not manga canon, and that it can be skipped. But that's not really the case. That's not what's really happening here. When I look up what the definition of an anime filler arc, what I get is that filler refers to a story in an anime that was not in the manga, one in which nothing that might affect the progress of the long story arcs or the development of main characters, with no returning side characters. So essentially what a filler arc is it is an arc within an anime that was not in the manga that is just added for time. Like when you think about long-standing series like One Piece or Naruto or Bleach, which are all known for having a lot of filler, that is because those were not seasonal animes and they consistently caught up with the story in the manga. So they would have to literally create filler. They didn't even have any knowledge of what was to come. They just had to kind of create content so that we had something to watch every week. This is known for being something that you can skip over because it doesn't progress the story forward in any way. There is nothing that happens that is really that important. Some people will say, yes, watch it because it's fun character interaction, they get to just hang out, and that is something that is part of Hashira Training. It is a lot of character interaction, so you do get a little bit of fun and a little bit of just happiness from these characters that are literally never happy because they're all traumatized. But that is what the definition of a filler arc is. The Hashira Training arc is not an anime original arc. This is an arc in the manga. And what Ufotable is doing is they are adapting the manga. They are just adding a lot of extra information in the middle. And shocker, this information is helpful to the story. In case you didn't know, Gotoge, the mangaka of Demon Slayer, aka the creator of Demon Slayer, has been a part of the production of the anime since its inception. While we don't really know if they are still a part of it, we can assume that they are because they literally have no other projects. The manga is done. The Kimetsu ga Ken, done. they don't have anything else going on, and they haven't been keeping up on like the status reports or anything post-manga, most likely because they are not only involved in this production, but they are actively involved. And the way I can tell that is because all of the anime original content is very intentional. Now, I'm not going to get into spoilers because if you're watching this, you might be an anime only, but everything that has happened so far, even the moments that feel like they don't have any meaning whatsoever, do have meaning. Most of it has all of us manga readers sitting here going, they did that. It is a training arc, but it is not a filler arc. There is lots of information in this arc that is important. First of all, as you already know, there has already been some backstory and major development with some well-loved characters, aka Giyu Tomioka. Now you might be saying, well, I can get that in a recap. You could definitely watch a recap of this season and see that, okay, Giyu had a backstory. Oh, he was connected to Sabito. But you know what you won't get? You won't get that cute little interaction with Tanjiro. You won't understand that Tanjiro had a huge part in Giyu finally coming forward with what happened to him and getting to a point where he can now be a part of the training. There are other backstories to come which are important too. There is the constant reminder that there is a looming battle. We see that they are literally getting watched by a demon that we've seen in the past. We are getting lots and lots of other characters, side characters, as I like to call NPCs, get a lot of development, and I guarantee you that will pay off in the future. Lots of these conversations seem silly, like we had a paper airplane contest. And yes, maybe some of that wasn't really needed. However, this is character interaction that is needed. These characters don't get to just hang out. They don't get to just train. We are literally every season back to back in these life or death wars. And this is a training arc, so we're getting training instead. We're not getting those life or death situations because believe me, that is coming. What Ufotable is doing is quite literally, it's like the beginning of the episode is a direct adaptation of the first or second panel of this training with this Hashira, and then the end of the episode is the next panel, which is the end of that training with that Hashira. Yes, everything in between is anime original content, however, it is still progressing the story. They are not making this not knowing what is to come. They are not making this not knowing if this is going to be important in the future. Every single conversation, every single interaction so far has been extremely intentional and will pay off in the future. Is it boring? Well, that's your prerogative. It's okay if it's boring to you. If you're someone who likes those life or death fights, the big hype, then yes, you might find this season a little bit boring, but that doesn't mean that it isn't important, which is the perfect segue into my next point. Not your cup of tea does not mean not important. I mean, I can't even imagine thinking this way. Like, oh man, I don't really like the way this arc is structured, therefore it's not important. It doesn't matter to the story. Like, how selfish and self-centered can you be? Like, get off your high horse. This world doesn't revolve around you. Okay, was that mean? Was that tough? Okay, well, maybe I need to rip the band-aid off a little bit. If it's not your cup of tea, if you find training boring, then too bad. It happens in every story. And I can say this as someone who is not a huge fan of training. Actually, this season is probably going to end up being my least favorite season in the story. And that is because I too prefer the hype. I too prefer to be sobbing and crying the whole time. I too prefer life or death to be what's knocking on our door, not just a wooden sword and some happy smiles at the end. But I also understand that that's just my own opinion on shows. That's my own prerogative. That's what I look for. However, not every show is going to follow that every single season. Demon Slayer is a story that definitely leans on those life or death and hype situations. However, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have the right to be able to go a little bit off of that and have a training arc. In many, many stories, the training arc develops the characters and the story more than any other arc. Many, many shows have very important developments during training arcs. And I can sit here and say My Hero Academia is a really, really good example because My Hero Academia, the entirety of season 5, I didn't like. I didn't like the first half that was all training, and I didn't like the second half where it was all about the villains. However, I'm not sitting here and saying that season wasn't important. In fact, it was very important. Deku unlocked some very important new abilities. The villains got very, very, very well developed, so we understood a little bit more where they were coming from. That season was important. I personally didn't care for it because I personally prefer the arcs that are focused on our heroes and fighting to the death. But again, that doesn't mean that it's not important. Training has a purpose, and this training arc has a purpose. We are getting characters new abilities, we are getting characters backstory, we are getting character interactions that we normally wouldn't see because we normally are fighting to the death. In fact, this might be controversial, but the Hashira Training arc is technically more important than the Entertainment District arc when it comes to plot. Let me explain. The plot of Entertainment District is very straightforward. It is, we get to the Entertainment District, we find demons, we fight demons to death, we all survive, okay? There are some important plot points, like Tanjiro unlocking a few new abilities. This is the first time that we have defeated an upper moon in over 100 years, but that's kind of it. It doesn't really move the story forward that much. However, it is most people, including myself, their favorite arc. Some people won't agree with me on that. It doesn't really matter because all of us have different opinions and different likes when it comes to a show. However, that's the way I see it. The Entertainment District, honestly, was the arc that probably had the least amount of plot points in it. And yet it's everyone's favorite. Which this is a good segue into my next point. It is okay to not like it. It is okay to be critical of it. But don't be hypocritical. These people that are getting on the internet and saying that this arc is not important because it's just a training arc and that it has all this filler are being very hypocritical because these are the same people that are saying, this story only has hype fight scenes, there's no real development, the characters are bland, blah 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 blah. I want character interaction. I want to see Tanjiro actually learn these rather than just unlock it in a life or death situation. That's what's happening right now, y'all. The Hashira Training arc is literally about the characters getting to interact with each other and develop with each other. It is literally about learning new things, about getting stronger. It's a training arc. That is what you've been asking for. Why are you complaining when you get it? It's not really done the way I want it to. Okay, I'm sorry it's not done the way you want it to. You're one of millions of fans of the show. They're going to cater towards what they think the numbers will like, not what you like. That kind of goes back to my point about it being not about you. Demon Slayer is not written for you, especially if you're like me and a Western fan that does not even speak Japanese. The show focuses heavily on Japanese mythology, and the kanji that Gotoge was using was very, very specific. And there's a lot of nuance that goes right over our heads because we are American viewers that are getting translations of what's actually happening. And sometimes because Japanese is such a different language, the translation just doesn't match up exactly what they meant when they wrote the story. Therefore, the show is not for us. They know we're here. They know we like it, but it's not made for us. And that's okay. That's just something that we have to accept as foreign fans. But if I see another reactor that was 2 episodes ago saying, yes, I'm so excited, character interactions, that's what I want to see in this show, complain after an episode that's almost completely in character interaction, okay, I'm trying to not get upset. People can be critical of their show. People can be honest and say, I don't really like this episode because it just doesn't really speak to me, but that doesn't mean that you can just say, because I didn't like this episode, I'm gonna deem this arc unimportant and I'm just going to watch a review afterwards. You know that these people are also making fun of the people that do that about their favorite show? Like it goes around to you too. You cannot then sit and say, well, this person doesn't know this X show because they just watched a recap of it, because that's what you're doing. You're just doing it about a show that maybe you're not saying is your favorite. Don't be hypocritical. If you're going to hold Demon Slayer to these standards, you have to hold everything to these standards. You have to understand that this is your opinion. You absolutely have a right to your opinion, and that's okay. The idea that you should skip Hashira Training is some random person's opinion because they don't really love Hashira Training. That's what it is. Okay, y'all, so that last little bit was a bit of a rant, but it is still something to be talked about because people are very hypocritical when it comes to their hate for Demon Slayer because it's a popular show. The Hashira Training arc is a very important arc with lots of character development, lots of story development, and a looming battle. I think it's very obvious that we know that a very big battle is coming, that we are coming to a close on the show itself. And this arc serves its purpose as build-up, it serves its purpose as an understanding of what is to come, and it serves its purpose as character development. That's what is important. If you're gonna watch this video and say, you know what, I don't think her points are that important, I'm still not gonna watch it, I'm just gonna watch a recap afterwards and move on, then that's your prerogative. But please, 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 don't get on the internet during the next season and say, oh my god, how is Tanjiro this strong? I never saw him unlock this ability. Maybe because he trained in the Hashira Training arc. And don't go, oh my gosh, these characters literally have never interacted. Why do they like each other so much? Well, maybe you missed out on them interacting in the Hashira Training arc. Remember, if you skip over an arc that is not filler, you are going to miss things even if you watch a recap, because everything so far has been extremely intentional and is very important to the story. Oh, but Hannah, paper airplanes aren't that important to the story. No, the paper airplane race is not that important to the story, but you know what is? Tanjiro and Muichiro getting an opportunity to be friends. Getting an opportunity to interact with these other Slayers. That is important, because we're going to miss that. We're going to miss that next year when we're watching Infinity Castle, believe me. All that to say, just watch Hashira Training, know that it is a training arc, it is not a filler arc, and understand that what you're getting into is a lot of dialogue and a lot of cute, silly jokes, a lot of fun. There is a lot of callback to the looming battle, so you will be reminded of that in every episode, but for the most part, it's just a fun arc. I understand if that's not really what you're into. That's totally fine, but that doesn't make it unimportant. That just makes your opinion something that is a thing. But that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any more questions about the Hashira Training arc and why you think it's important, or you want to add to what I said, go ahead and leave a comment down below. We are halfway through the season already, and we're going to be done before we know it, and I can guarantee you that season finale hits, no one is going to be saying that this arc should have been skipped. Please, if you skip every other episode, please don't skip the last one. Oh my goodness, the last one's gonna be so important, like, for real. But like I said, I'm not gonna go any more deep because I will just turn into a tangent and probably vent a little bit more, and I don't want to come across as angry because I'm not mad. I just want to set the record straight that you should be watching Hashira Training, okay? Watch Hashira Training. If you want to just wait until it's over and just binge all 8 episodes, just do it. But watch it, okay? Watch it. It's important. It might not be your cup of tea, but it's still important. Okay. All right. Have we established that? Cool? All right. That's it for today's video, y'all. Don't forget, like I said, like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications. Also, listen to my podcast. I go into depth with my 2 friends quite often about Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen. We've talked about Chainsaw Man. We have a lot of fun on the podcast, so check it out. Otherwise, I leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching. Johnny!